goal isn't to live forever. The goal is to create something that will.
Welcome to Perspective, a podcast for wedding creators, where we sit down often with special guests and talk about our many years of experience in the wedding industry so you can learn from us and grow your wedding business. And who are we? I'm Simon, and this is Greg Zilla. Together, we are Cinemate Films, two Scottish-based wedding filmmakers who love nothing more than drinking coffee and talking shop with others in the wedding industry. And we've teamed up with Photography Farm to bring you 6 special episodes in anticipation of London Thrive, an all-star wedding photography workshop taught by 6 phenomenal mentors. This episode is, of course, sponsored by With Jack, but I will get onto that a little bit later in the show. Greg, good morning.
Good morning.
Which one of our phenomenal mentors are we talking to today?
We're not talking to one, we're talking to 2.
Oh my
we're talking
God.
to Ronja and Victor from Muse Mirror. Hello, how are you?
Hey, guys.
Hi.
Hello,
Nice to meet you.
Yes, thank you for joining us. Again, we didn't do our off-camera chat. Have you got yourself a beverage? Are you ready for a 2-hour conversation with us?
Coffee.
All right.
Nice.
Good stuff.
And just while we're here, we're drinking coffee. Thank you to Susie Olsen. Again, we're drinking your Luwak coffee. Oh, I've just put all the grounds all over the table. Shit. Never mind. Thanks, Susie. Susie actually, she went on holiday and brought us 2. It just keeps getting worse. 2 packs of this coffee because we didn't get the first one on time. Then she sent us the second one, and then we found the other delivery. So we now have all this coffee, which is great.
Yeah.
Anyway,
But before we get into stuff, for anyone who might not know who you are, why don't you give us a quick introduction to who Ronja and Victor and Muse Mirror are?
You can take that.
Well, we are a photographer duo from Germany. We've been photographing weddings for the past 10 years, everywhere across Europe, like mostly Europe, with a few exceptions. And like right now, we are doing a lot of workshops, mentoring, digital products, like all kinds of stuff. So we diversified our business a little bit. But yeah, we've been in this industry for a long, long time.
yes. Are you still enjoying it, or have there ever been periods of feeling jaded by the wedding industry? Or
Yeah, definitely. I think most of the people who do it for a long time, they get to some point where they feel kind of like a creative or like physical mental exhaustion. And we had that too. Like if you do it for a long time, it's very taxing, especially to always like get back into a creative state and into a creative mind, like creative perspective on photography. Because it can so easily become a routine, like everything becomes very, always the same. So, you just have to look out for inspiring yourself again and again.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the biggest like challenges.
And also what we're trying to focus on at the moment a bit, like going into more artsy stuff, because that's more like what gives ourselves more inspiration and motivation. And yeah, it's, I think, for us an important kind of counterpart to balance everything out.
mm-hmm.
And I think like one of the things we are looking for, and like probably a lot of people are looking for, is like to be able to surprise yourself a little bit, like even after a long time doing this, to be able to surprise yourself with things you create, or like do something very, very different, like not always do the same, because it's so easy to repeat what you are doing, to replicate what you are doing. And especially because of social media, because of Instagram, where we all like are flooded with the same kind of pictures. So yeah, it's really, sometimes it's really a great challenge to do something different,
Yeah. So So obviously you mentioned that you were taking a break from weddings. Is that like fully all together, or when potential clients come to you and they tell you about themselves and about the day, like, are you ever tempted with like certain couples? Like, would you ever give in and do another one?
No,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we don't quit like altogether. It's just like right now our business is more diversified, and like that's something we truly enjoy, like doing different parts of this thing. Like wedding photography is a lot of stuff. It's like weddings themselves. It's like workshops. It's also couple shoots, and it's like you can diversify within this industry, you know?
Yeah, but then that's when we get like a nice inquiry that's very specific, also like really speaking to our style and our own aesthetic, then we get like still very excited about it, because like if someone's coming, we had an inquiry recently for like a Bram Stoker's Dracula kind of themed thing, and it's like, okay, that sounds amazing. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I'm getting the vibe. It's just if a couple come to you and be like, we want to have a wedding, but it's not going to be your traditional wedding.
Yeah, that's like what speaks to us the most. I mean, you have done probably a lot of weddings, and we have done a lot of weddings, and like, there is like a lot of the same, even though the emotions are different, the people are different. But there's also a lot of the same. So it's just inspiring to see like people doing their very own thing, their very unique vision.
And if you feel like you're part of the vision, like the aesthetic kind of really merges and you can create something together, and it really feels like a collaboration more to bring that vision to life that couple has.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you
always had, like you mentioned, you're looking to do more of this sort of art type stuff because that's what brings you joy. Have you always had that mindset? And like one question Simon quite often asked the Thrive speakers was like, who do you shoot for? So when you were shooting a wedding, were you shooting for yourself or for the couple?
I think like, well, you can answer.
I think maybe it's even a bit different for the two of us. I think for me, it's more about shooting for the client, because I feel like there's a lot of value in it. And I also get like a lot of emotional, I don't know,
reward.
Yeah, reward. Yeah. If I feel like I'm capturing something for them, and I know it's not just about it doesn't have to be this crazy artistic photograph. I know the value is just in the people on the picture, and it's a classic shot, but it's going to mean so much to them. And that gives me a lot. While Victor is more like looking for like special aesthetics and the artistic side. And then that really gets him going. So we also often take kind of turns, because I'm like, oh, the mood is so amazing. They are feeling it right now, and I can feel it, and I get goosebumps. And he's like, yeah, something aesthetically for me is off a bit. I'm not feeling it. And then he takes over, and yeah, it's.
But I think like both approaches work equally, like, because like most of the people do it solo, like photographing weddings solo, I guess. And I think you just have to find something that like lights your fire, you know? Like it can be aesthetics or it can be reportage, and you can like focus on that particular part of what you are truly passionate about and like build your brand around it. So yeah,
it has to work for you.
Yeah. Does that do your different thought processes affect, like if a couple did say, oh, we want to do this wedding, and it sets off like good vibes with one of you? Have you ever had a moment where like one of you's wanted to do the wedding, but the other one's like, I'm not feeling it. I don't know what it is, but I just don't want to do it?
I don't think so.
Okay. No, I don't think so. Like, I think it's more like on the micro level, that within a wedding, we are looking for like different moments, and
but we usually connect very well with the same kind of people. So haven't been a problem.
Yeah, no, I get that. I was having this thought, recently, because we just shot a wedding where it was like a small barn wedding, and to me it was very much like there wasn't too much of like my mindset wasn't too much about creating something surreal or like anything out of the ordinary. It was more like I was having a really good time connecting with people and just feeling the genuineness of the wedding. And it's funny because I do come in and out of like the different ways. Like those two mindsets, the way you describe them, are just how I come in and out of how I want to picture a wedding. So but It's just interesting, and I want to know if any.
It makes sense to me. I mean, being motivated to connect with people is like the greatest foundation to do weddings, because it's like such a social event.
I think that's also what we're sometimes struggling with, because we're both more introverted people, and then it can be like a lot of social energy, and then you have that hangover afterwards, and you're like, I don't want to see people for the next week.
And I think like you really have to find a way to stay true to your real energy, like if you're more on the introverted side, like being super out there and like kind of pretending to be an extrovert could be like very exhausting. So it's like it's difficult to navigate through this day depending on what kind of energy you have, what kind of energy the couple has.
But I think that's already where like the selection process starts. Like if we talk to the couple beforehand, usually they are also like personality wise a bit more closer to our side. And I think people who are like very hyper and high energy, they wouldn't like connect with us so naturally. So people are more like, oh yeah, we don't like maybe even enjoy being in front of a camera so much. We don't like so much attention. We don't want to be like smiling and, what is it called? Piggyback or something? Like, in the sunset or something. So they feel like kind of connected to that calmer vibe in the images and feel like safer with that they don't have to perform out of character for us or for the images or for the wedding.
Okay, good. Just want to say this. You don't need to perform for us. I know you're in front of a camera right now and you're talking to us. Like, are you feeling that way?
No, we are chill and we feel like everything's fine.
Okay.
Good. So you guys you're based in Leipzig, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But obviously you travel all over the world. So what do you think your local surroundings play into your creativity and your work at all?
Well, I think our local surroundings match our aesthetic vision, kind of, because Leipzig is a very beautiful city with old streets and old buildings and old everything. Everything looks very ornate and very old. And so that kind of fits our style, as you see maybe in the background.
So this is our living room.
That's like, we just chose a place that we feel very connected to, like emotionally and like aesthetically. We don't come from the city, but we moved here and we feel right at home. And of course, we travel to a lot of different places which come with different challenges. For example, if you work in Iceland, if you ever did, like there are like barely any old buildings or whatever. So you just have to like puzzle this together. So it like kind of makes sense, like stylistic wise or and with the location, with the place. But the photography took us to a lot of places. That's a beautiful thing, actually. We never actively chased destination weddings. That wasn't like in the very beginning. We thought it would be nice to travel, but then there's this idea of photographers to start doing it. Like being on the go is the greatest thing you can achieve. Then after a while, if you have done it a lot, I mean, for some people, it's like the best thing. But like most of the people realize that's also like a lot of like stress, and you are away from home for a lot of time, and like it takes a lot of time, and it's a different beast, like
it's also nice, like we often feel when people are like, are you going on vacation or something, we're like, we're home right now, this is the best place to be,
I agree. I think when we made the decision to just stick to home and make Scotland almost part of the brand, it felt nice to just be able to hone like our tone and everything around the hills and the rain, and just not have to feel that we had to go to like Como or something.
Have you done a lot of destination stuff?
We didn't do a lot, but we did a few back at the beginning, and like over to Tuscany or Texas or a few different places.
So did that match your expectation?
It was like you said, like the travel and the extra work when you were there. It's not as easy as people expect. We decided, let's just switch up. We've got an awesome country here that people come to for weddings.
Especially Scotland. I mean,
let's lean into that.
I suppose that, we are kind of, we had the benefit of saying that, knowing that Scotland is a country that people do come to elope, and
Absolutely.
it has that history, it has the scenery.
I think I would love that business, like an elopement business in Scotland. I think it's amazing. Like,
yeah. So we are privileged in that regard. So I can understand, if you're like a destination photographer going, you bastards, I don't have that on my doorstep. Sorry, I know. But yeah, why don't you like tell us about your daily life out with work? Like what do you guys like to do on a personal level? Yeah, tell us about yourselves.
Yeah. We live a very calm life, actually. We are not so much out there. It's also like we don't expose ourselves as people, not so much on social media. So the people that follow us will have noticed that we are very like, it's very rare that we show stuff from our life. Actually, that's something we enjoy. I mean, like social media is obviously somehow important, but like we still try to stay true to ourselves. It's like not in our nature to show our faces all the time, or it's just like nothing that feels overly natural for us, or like an urge to present ourselves. So we are a little bit more like retracted, and we go about our days like in a pretty easy way. Like we enjoy like very simple things in our daily life. Like
coffee is like a big one.
Yeah,
like
coffee.
Going to a cafe. Sitting at a cafe with like a laptop, doing some work there. I think that's
like the very casual things. I mean, I think we both have the ability to excite ourselves about very simple things, like sitting on a park bench and seeing the light and saying like, that's fucking beautiful, beautiful day. It doesn't take much. I mean, we are not like action junkies. Actually, we spend a lot of time with just like having lengthy conversations about all kinds of stuff, be it like photography, be it like art, be it like psychology, relationship things. Like we are very like interested in a lot of different topics. So like conversation fills a lot of our shared time.
Yeah. And coming up with like 20 projects that never actually get to see the light of day, but it's a passion to think and to talk. And of course we have like good friends and like a bit of a community here, which I also think makes Leipzig feel so much of a home to us. Yeah. And we just try to prioritize that as much as possible, because I think that's one of the most important things. Like the quality of your relationships, I think, is super important.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you spend a lot of face-to-face time with these people?
Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
I
think that's important.
Actually, in the beginning when we moved here, I think maybe that's a topic for like quite a few people, especially like self-employed. Especially if you don't work like regional, so you don't connect with like vendors in your city or whatever. Like you work everywhere, and it's really tough to connect to people, because you don't have like this 9-to-5 job where you have like other coworkers that you can connect with, and you have to actively build a community. And because we moved to this place, and we knew no one, so we had to actively like build this community of friends. And over the years, we made it, like, we were able to, and right now, like, we have a great community of friends, like we feel right at home. And like, I think for both of us, we didn't feel home for a while. And, right now we have found our new home in Leipzig. It's very beautiful. You should come. Or we come to Scotland. We planned that anyway. So
yeah, absolutely. So for photographers out there, especially those who maybe are new and they don't have that community, like what would you say for them to do to start, like you said, building that?
I think it makes a lot of sense, like professionally and like personally, if you live in a place, to connect with people who do the same thing, like some people have more like a competitive spirit, kind of like where they don't want to, like push or like bring forward other peers, like because they might become too successful or something. But I think that's not a like useful thinking. Like you should connect with people and be like uplifting and like pushing each other. And we made the experience that it always like comes back, returns to you, the same energy returns to you that you give to other people, and like you never really know, but I think like it's a super important thing to go with like good intention, good spirits into like human encounters of any kind, and like business is the same. Like businesses are always just people, it's not a business. It's just people, with their feelings or with their whatever they bring. And like, I think it's a good thing to approach these people like with kindness, but with genuine kindness. I don't like people who are too sleazy. Like just be a good person, and then it will like come back to you.
Yeah. Do you think, as I often ponder this, do you think that social media has made it too easy for people to do the wrong type of connecting? Because in my mind, when you post something and you say hashtag a photographer or whatever, I don't feel, I mean, yes, it's good to recognize all the people involved in an event, but if you're trying to connect with someone, that isn't enough for me. And I feel like social media just it's not emphasized enough on the actual genuine relationships. It's more just like business transaction type of thing. Do you ever get that vibe? Or?
I think it's such a common phenomenon right now that people feel very lonely, despite being able to connect with so many people on social media. Connect. That's the thing, like connect and exclamation
but I think
marks.
Also, like if you find people online, like we have some friends who are like also photographers in Leipzig with whom we meet up. And then I think it's so important to like actually nurture this real life connection and actually invest time to get to know someone and not just be there for like, great, what you're doing. Like, okay, I'm out again. But I think really nurturing relationships is super important. It doesn't come from just like commenting or liking something. I think that doesn't do it.
Yeah, and I think it also comes back again to like if you have genuine interest in somebody and connect, that's like a good thing, but some people just
or doing like creative projects together.
Or something like this. But some people just like try to connect for like business purposes, like they don't see you as a person, they see you as an opportunity. So I think that's like the wrong way to go about it personally.
Yeah. I think, I mean, I will admit that I was probably like in the earlier stage of business when I was so focused on trying to make the business work. I fell into that trap of just making everything like a business transaction. It wasn't productive.
I think also a problem where you leave like your authenticity, I think, is also when you try to then also in these interactions be seen as the sort of, you're the artist, the photographer, you have like a certain brand or standing or whatever, and then you try to keep that up. And I think you really connect with people if you're just very real, also like about your challenges, and you share that too with the people in your life. And then you can actually help each other and, something bigger can like come up.
Yeah, that's actually a great like connecting point to the wall workshop topic, because you meet actual people and like you connect, you spend time together, and you realize that because you see all those people like online, they are just like a brand, like you look at them, you don't really know them, but talk to them for 2 minutes and you know them, like you know a lot more than following them for like years.
Actually, because I remember we met up with a group of creatives, and it was all sorts like planners and photographers and florists, and some of them were just like, is that thingy? Oh, I don't recognize them from their photograph. I'm like, that's so funny because we're socializing right now. It's great, but we've been socializing online. Do you really actually know the person? It was so funny.
And I think there are often like so many also like maybe associations or judgments or whatever about people if you look at their brand. And I feel like the more people you meet, it's like everybody is kind of struggling. Everybody is kind of giving their best, and everybody, like most people you meet in the industry are just kind people who are just trying, no matter how like perfect their feed looks or not or whatever, they are just.
And that's like one of the problems too, because everybody has a business and like wants to sell themselves, of course, as like being successful, but we are all also like full of, I don't know, fears, uncertainties, anxieties, like not being able to live up to whatever image we have of ourselves. And there's like a lot of vulnerabilities that you come across, especially when meeting in person, you talk to people and you realize like everybody is like
on their own journey and like
on their own journey, but also like kind of like there are shared like points of this journey where you feel like you can connect really well with, especially like the artist side, because like we are all like kind of artists. And like, well, like depending on the self-understanding, but yeah, I think it's like in an artist's nature to question yourself, you know, like wondering if you are like, are you doing good stuff? Are you actually doing good stuff? Yeah, are you good enough? Are you creating something of importance, of value? And yeah, that's like everybody has these questions. I mean, it's so natural and it's so nice to connect through these questions.
Yeah.
Yes. I have a very bad tendency of asking those questions too much about myself and just keeping it all in. I'm like, yeah, that's when the imposter syndrome comes in and all that kind of stuff. But yeah. Well, talking about that balance of art and business, you're obviously known for your melancholy art. I would say there is a sad beauty to it.
Yeah, we take it.
But so how do you balance those creative sides of yourself and what you want to create with the business mindset?
Yeah, I think like we approach like talking about a wedding, we approach like most of the wedding in a very like usual way. Like our way of photographing weddings is like very like classic, you know, we don't do like super artsy, surreal stuff in super normal circumstances. Yeah. So like for most of the day, we capture it in just like a kind of a timeless manner. And we, we try to like, I mean, social media is like the forefront of your store, whatever. Is it forefront?
Yeah, I think so.
Forefront of your store. So you put there what you can connect to the most, or maybe what distinguishes you the most from the competition. But also for us, it's we put there what we feel in love with, you know, like genuinely in love with. And that's also like a reason why we are doing more other stuff right now. Because we have more freedom in taking control, like creative control, like
and other
doing
kinds
the
of
actual, doing the actual art direction, you know, for what we are doing. So following more like what we actually love. And I think that's a great thing. But like for weddings, I see that like maybe we do 10% or 15% of what we are like most passionate about, like this creating part, like taking control part. But all the rest is just like us being unobtrusive in the background and like just
also like light editing. It's not a super intense style or anything. And we also, I think, like these artistic choices, they also like influenced our business model in a way, because we completely changed to like doing the album as the actual end product, which I feel is also giving us a lot of freedom. And it's also what people will see from us in the beginning. So maybe if they have only seen our feed, then they might worry like, but what is the ceremony going to look like? And here in a call or something, we will always share like full albums with them so they can get an idea like how their story is going to be captured. And I think working with spreads, like scenes, also like in a movie, gives you a lot of creative freedom, and you can actually, I feel like, be more free in that, because you don't have like one online gallery where you feel like this should all look consistent in one style, but you're actually like, okay, this is a cool morning scene. Let's make it like, I don't know, super blue or whatever. And then the next page and it changes, and it's so interesting to look through the album. And then you go to maybe the couple shoot and it's like really artistic, but just for a spread maybe. And then you like, with that in mind, I feel like it gives you a lot of freedom to create.
And I think like in regards to the reportage part
the
documentary part of a wedding, I mean, there are photographers who like are able to be very creative during that part, you know, and that's not really our thing. Like, because when we are like truly creative or like going more into this art direction, our working style is actually very, very calm, and very slow. But like there are some people who are able to incorporate a very like fancy, flashy, interesting, creative style during the documentary part. That's amazing too. Like this is not our skill. Yeah. But yeah, there are some people who can do it. So I look up to that. Yeah.
I think we're losing. Well, yeah. We lost you a wee bit during some of that answer there. It cut out a couple of times.
All right. Are we back?
What we did here sounded great. What we've not talked about yet is like how you guys got into photography originally, and then what also drew you towards weddings, or was that your initial sort of introduction to photography?
Yeah. Well, I started doing my studies. I studied very like different stuff, like literature and communication and stuff. And so I did it like as a hobby. It started as a hobby, started to photograph people who I know, like portraits, and then doing more composite work, like a little bit like between digital art and photography actually. And then at some point I thought like, well, I would like to challenge myself on a bigger scale, you know, because if you're doing photography as a business, it's an entirely different beast than doing it as a hobby, because you have to learn so many things. I mean, apart from photography too.
Especially apart from that.
Especially apart from photography. And so, yeah, actually I was wondering like if I would be able to pull off a more dramatic, call it melancholic or poetic style in wedding photography, and I didn't know if that was a thing at all, you know, like when I started, like I had no clue, no idea. And then we became a couple, and then we started to do weddings, like wedding of a friend or friends, you know, like how it oftentimes started. And then we like grinded our way up because we didn't like know that there are workshops. We didn't know that there are style shoots.
I don't even know if it existed like in that format that's available today. I don't think that was like so much of a thing.
Yeah. So we built our portfolio by being very selective with our work. That's still our way to go about it. There's also like the opposite approach, which can work very well too. Like, you photograph a lot of stuff. And you post a lot of stuff. You actually post a lot of your client stuff and link them. And they tell friends, and then you grow like this. Or you are very selective and like more stylized. Yeah, more stylized and look more at the aesthetical side of things to build things up. I think these are like two approaches that can work very well, both of them.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier, you know, if you were going to capture a ceremony, you mentioned it, capturing it in a timeless way. Like what is timeless to you? Because as a filmmaker, when I hear timeless, I'm thinking, oh, it's just it's a film that doesn't have like mad transitions or an aggressive color grade but what is timeless in like a one image, say?
I think like thinking about it, timeless, I mean, the word itself doesn't have a meaning. Like if you think about it aesthetically, what does it even mean? It's a good question. Like I was trying to say that we are not approaching this in a very fancy style, you know? We don't go about like wide angles or wild compositions or like
or blurry images. It's just like a sharp image where you see everything that's important in the most flattering way possible. So it's
not like necessarily timeless because it's been done differently 100 years ago or two. I mean, but it's like we are like very like more conventional, maybe conventional is the word
also,
or classic. Yes. But like that's also part of the reason that we are like more actively looking for other projects to engage ourselves in, because we feel more creative freedom and actually it plays a lot into our strengths.
Yeah. But I think also like for clients, if they've seen our work, we often got the feedback that they've never seen like an unflattering photo of anyone we photographed. Yeah. And so I think selection also in that, like also in how we capture weddings is like in that process also an important part of it actually. And so even that, like capturing that scene, but it's a picture they're going to love because it's just beautiful. It's just pretty. Like we know they look great and they're going to love it. That's enough.
I mean,
it doesn't have to be like a creative masterwork or something.
Yeah, I mean, in the beginning, we were wondering ourselves, like, who would we book for our wedding, you know, and for what reasons? Yeah. And I think that's a nice direction you can like find for yourself, like asking yourself that question, like, what wedding photographer would I like to book? What would be the qualities of that wedding photographer?
And then try to become that yourself for your clients.
Exactly. So what we were like thinking was like, we would like to have a wedding photographer who photographs the wedding in a very like conventional, beautiful way. But then also be very artsy about the portrait stuff, because that's what we love too. So yeah, actually this is probably the way it went. So we became pretty much this, you know?
But also in our heads, we came to the conclusion we would probably add another photographer who does like maybe a more like documentary style, very lively kind of version of the wedding too, and could just combine it so you get everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's so like, of course, like the people who book us, they book us for our distinctive style, especially when creating more artistic images, more poetic images. And that's what we also love. They shall book us for this. Like, this is great. But like, I think for couples, it's so difficult, you know, to choose a wedding photographer. I mean, like maybe one part of the couple says, I prefer this, and the other part says, I prefer this. And then you have to find some common ground. And I mean, there are a lot of different styles. And
by now, I think like the technical expertise level and all of that is like so high. Like, it's not like, they can take good pictures because a lot of people can.
That's also like one of the things, like it became way more difficult to set yourself apart in this market because the level became so high through education and through presets and through all the kind of things that people can do to, you know, raise the average level of their work. And so, this is very competitive for everyone, this industry.
I think like the human to human and the service part is actually getting more important through that.
Yeah, definitely. I think the base level of photography, if you're doing it as a job, has to be good. Like that documentary aspect of ceremony and speeches, you need to be consistent at capturing them well, and then you can add in the creative stuff later on. Where do you get like your inspiration for your photography and stuff? Like, who's your biggest sort of inspiration?
I think like actually, our biggest inspiration is usually not photography. Like we look at a lot of other stuff. We look at like paintings, poetry, read a lot of poetry. We love music. We love dance.
I think it's a lot about that feeling, you know?
Yeah, it's a lot about the feeling that we connect to, rather than it is like looking at photographs and thinking like, let's do the same. So that's actually what inspired us for a long, long time.
And I think that's also like in the shoots, in the moments, in the moods we try to create with the couples to actually get that kind of feeling, like to be a real sort of experience for them, and then also translate into the images. So they have these kind of, I think, a longing to them. Like, I think that's how we feel this melancholic touch is like best described.
And I think it's so easy to, like on this market, to be intimidated by what everyone is doing, you know, because like there is so much talent in this industry, like in all industries, but in this industry too, there is a lot of talent. So you really have to, you know, like explore and like try to be playful, try to not be intimidated, try to do your own thing. When doing like mentorings, workshops and stuff, people oftentimes approach us and are asking like, well, how can I do your style? How can I do what you do? And then we always say like, this is not what you actually want to do. You know, you want to do what fits your character, because you're a different person. And like, photography art is always like an extension of who you are, you know, an extension of your character. I mean, some people are like, I don't know, very, giggly, enthusiastic, and like, that's great if they bring that spirit into their pictures like this.
And people will connect to that and book them for it, but it will be very off character and weird and hard to achieve, like the look or the kind of energy we bring into a room. It's just a different thing.
And I think it's great to just like look for like different puzzle pieces you can take from different photographers, you know, but at the same time, like staying true to yourself, realizing you're not that person, you know, you don't want to do like the exact same thing.
That's also the cool thing about workshops, I think, because it just like frees you to see like, okay, these are all different approaches and different characters, and this is working for them and this is working for them. So maybe the weird thing I thought about could work for me, because obviously there are so many different ways to do it.
Yeah, and for me, it's a lot about not just like developing or like creating kind of a visual signature, but a lot about like finding what actually, like discovering within yourself,
Like
what's actually the thing that, that actually speaks to you. Like, this is me. I mean, sometimes you look at things and you're like this touches me. This is totally my thing. You know, this is like a great discovery, and this happens again and again and again. And you also change over time as a human being. But like, I think this is the process for me, finding what I'm actually excited about.
Yeah. I get why new photographers might ask that question, because they want that quick success. They want to skip a few steps and get there. If you're not staying true to yourself and trying to just copy someone, you're going to burn out quicker. Like, if you want longevity, it's not going to work just copying someone. Yeah,
and we know like there is no quick way to success, because you can't do anything like that's not authentic. And as you said, being sustainable, it won't work. Yeah. And you have to discover that for yourself, and that's through trial and error and error and error and error and trial.
What was it Thomas Edison said? It's like, I haven't failed. I've just discovered 10,000 ways how not to make a light bulb.
Yeah.
And I always remember that quote. It's like, all the lessons that we learn in failure. We've obviously talked about the artistic side of your work, but what defines, because obviously fine art, I mean, it's all encompassing. There's so many different styles of art and how artists express themselves. But what defining characteristics would you say you focus on when you create an image, when you're given the opportunity to express yourself fully?
That's a big question.
It is a big question.
I think, I did a lot of photography where I stripped away all my creative possibilities. Actually, I did a lot of photography where, for example, I only shot with like one small light source in a room, without direction. So like I didn't talk at all. Like, this was like an ongoing challenge for me to create these kind of shooting situations. Mm-hmm. To actually be able to pull something off with like the minimal things to have, which was a great lesson also for all kinds of other stuff we do.
Well, you also realize like taking stuff away, and I mean that's something you have in weddings a lot. Like, it's not perfect, like the circumstances aren't like ideal. Yeah. But what does it do to your creativity? And I feel like that mostly happens if you're like limited in a way, because then you have to start creating, actually like doing it, and not just holding the camera.
And it gives you like a lot of confidence. I think like as a wedding photographer, or probably like any pro, you have to experience a lot of difficult situations to have that genuine confidence in yourself that you can like pull it off. But at the same time, not be afraid. I mean, what's the worst thing that could happen, Like if
an image sucks and you delete it.
But if you play, and if you stay attentive, and like if you stay willing to, for example, break up a posture or whatever, like you pose a couple and you break this up. That's actually important, to like readjust and to allow yourself to try and fail. And try and fail, and then you try and then you succeed,
I think also like when we create for ourselves, it's a lot about the haptics of things. Like we want already when we see it to kind of give us goosebumps, or that's for me, I think, like with the textures, with like the layers in the image, with like the feeling, with the music in the room, with like actually feeling like it's an experience that in itself already feels kind of different and nurturing, and of course I think it's mostly a lack of light, like a lot of darkness, and then playing with light in that space.
But also like maybe the opposite approach sometimes, that you concept of shooting with a lot of different layers. You think about layers, you think about fabrics and colors. And I mean, colors can be altered afterwards, but it's like a good process to think about like what colors could match. And then it feels very organic. And it's easy to create. Yeah, we like this too, like this very painterly look. But yeah, what was the question again?
what key elements would define your like creative side?
I think like if you're looking for like words to describe it, it would probably be like mystical, poetical,
movement, like some sort of wind, whatever that gives it like this
movement, and especially like a way of directing people and working with people that is very like from their posture and from their movement is like very natural.
And I think also then like for the final image, I think the selection process is so important, because I think for us most of the time it's like you might work with some sort of pose, or the person is in some sort of pose, but it's like the moment they break it, and then you have like that genuine moment, or something that's a bit weird about the way they move in that moment, but that's what makes it interesting. And I think people have like a lot of different, or not a lot, but some people think like you shouldn't take too many pictures, because then it's not like as much of Leistung.
So like a happy accident.
An achievement, you know. Some people think like taking lesser, fewer pictures is like the better way to approach it. While we think like you can go machine gun style, and
doesn't matter. If in the end you get like what you're looking for.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, because I often think about that kind of like approach, especially with photographers who dabble with film, 35 millimeter film. They always talk about learning to be intentional with that moment, because it's not like a digital camera, which is like you don't have that opportunity. You have to almost have foresight and to know when the pinnacle of the expression of the image that you want to create, and then hit the shutter button, which it seems a lot, but it's quite nice and refreshing to hear that you kind of don't have that approach.
I think like
if we would work with analog, we have to.
Video. I was thinking like video, because like we do a little bit of video sometimes, but like not like it's not our main thing. But with video, you see every kind of awkwardness, It's not possible to hide it. Like while with photographs, it's easy to hide it.
Yes. Which is quite nice in video, because within like one clip, you can have many different tones of feeling, the crescendo, the build up, and then like you said, the release. And usually when you've got a couple who are awkward in front of the camera, there is that kind of moment where you're like, oh yes, this looks amazing. But then they kind of fall apart, and there's that kind of beauty in the moment where they just realize this is absolute crazy. This is not what we're used to. And they're laughing and giggling. And all in that one clip. Yeah, exactly. And it's always, that's one of the aspects of video that I really enjoy.
Yeah.
The tonal shifts throughout one without. Yeah. Do you work with many video people? Videographers?
Yeah, we worked with some,
sometimes.
Like some horrible experiences, some good ones.
But I think also like
tell me about the horrible experiences, please.
Yeah, I mean like I always see this as a collaboration, If you go there, I mean, you're there to make the client happy. So what you want to do is like collaborate on the creative process, like not get in the way of the other person, and like vice versa. So this is like our approach of doing it. Like in the beginning, we sometimes did it like we like film like videography and photography at the same time. So we tried to coordinate this somehow. Nice. We realized it's only works okay-ish for us. So like our approach was more like, okay, you take your time, even if it's a bit shorter, and we take our time, so everybody can do their thing, not get in the way of the other person. Maybe like shoot over their shoulder, that's fine too, like create additional content, but like from the creative direction part, like do it separately. But we had some videographers who are very like egoistic in their style, like crushing,
or also having like a very different style. Like
or
we're turning off all the artificial light, and they're like, yeah, let's turn all the artificial lights on, and we're like, oh, okay. So now he has to do it again. So
Yeah,
I mean, like trying to be like respectful, make the job of the other person easier if possible. Like that's how we approach it with videographers. That's also how we appreciate to be approached, and like not everybody does it that way, but like in general, it's okay. Like
I think a lot of our clients actually they have a priority. I think so. It's often I think they will go with like an expensive videographer, and then maybe not have like a photographer on that level. And a lot of our clients prefer like the photography part because it's like tangible, and they get the album in the end, and they don't care about video so much. So I think it doesn't happen too often.
Yeah.
The reason I asked that because I am actually hearing more and more about video people who are not the most productive in the way that they work.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, okay, I do speak to more photographers than I do video people. That is maybe
they would also tell you the opposite.
Like, for example, like if you film a wedding, like are you just two people, like just the two of you?
Yeah.
I think it depends because I mean some people have like a lot of like clutter, I don't know, 1,000 cameras and audio devices and maybe even additional assistants and stuff. And then like all this takes a lot of room. But there are other videographers who work very like low key, like small camera, unobtrusive, very laid back approach. Like it's very different, you know? And I don't know. I think it's a preference of the couple. I mean,
sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, how do you go about it? Like personally? I mean, do you have a lot of equipment, or are you more like low-key, or like...
Probably low-key now. We used to have a lot of equipment, and by a lot of equipment, I mean everything was on tripods, and we used to have a few lights and a slider. I don't know if video people remember sliders back in the day. That sort of thing.
We've tried to... Over the years, it's been minimized.
Yeah.
Try and work in just handheld, run and gun, mainly just so that we can be more freed as well as less clutter as well.
Yeah.
But like just the other day there, went to pick up my camera bag and I was like, bloody hell, this is heavy. Like, what? How has this happened? How has this got heavy again?
But,
I feel like
it's all in two rucksacks, like one rucksack each. So it's not a lot of gear.
Yeah. And even me, like, I've gotten rid of the glide cam and stuff, but there's a drone in my bag and there's a monitor now that sits on top so I can see better because I've got old eyes. All these very small things are adding to the weight of my bag, and I remember when I had the bag, it was just two cameras with two lenses, and that was it. But now it's more and more and more and more. So we both need to.
Yeah. Our approach is pretty similar though. Like it's a collaborative effort. It's trying to get the best for the couple.
Yeah. I think it's similar for us. Like in the beginning, both of us like two cameras and then all the lenses and switching all the time. And then you're like, I'm more like switching lenses than actually like capturing the moment. That's just,
But I think like as a videographer, you have to be so like intentional and like had like good planning, you know, before like because you have to like set everything up, like especially with a drone shot and something, you know, you can't fly a drone and then film like the wedding at the same time. Like, you have to coordinate everything pretty well so it goes smoothly. That's how I imagine it. I mean,
there is more forethought that needs, you know, especially in Scotland when there's like, oh, when's it raining? But then I have found that the more you plan, the more you kind of shoot yourself in the foot because you don't you don't leave room in your mind for doing something spontaneous. So I've tried. So I said I have a bag on me, and inside the bag is a drone, and I just carry it around with me all the time. Everything I need is always on me. Other than tripods and monopods, but I only ever use a monopod for the speeches, and that's it. And so I'm ready. I'm ready for whatever the couple want to do. If they just want to run to the hills right now, I'm like, cool. And we're off. And I think that reducing the amount of equipment has helped with doing that. yeah, because you do miss stuff if you've got gimbals and teams of people, and you're like, oh, I'm going to assume that my third camera guy has got the shot or whatever.
I imagine that the entry hurdle is like way bigger for videography because you have to like pull off a lot of things, and there's like not a lot of room for error, like recording audio, and you can see
stuff.
It like during the speeches or whatever, and you lose the audio, like you're fucked.
What the worst thing about video is it's the audio. It's the audio because you imagine pushing that button and then putting it on someone and then leaving that device
to walk away
on that person for like an hour. What's going to happen to it? Is it going to get knocked off? Is there going to be technical gremlins? Does the battery run out? Is there wind? Has the wind muff been put on properly? All these things, and you're like, I'm going so great just from doing this job alone.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
In the end, you're like, okay, let's put music over this. That's awesome.
I mean, hey, the benefit of video is that you like, even if you haven't captured it very well. And I remember speaking to Monica Freys about this. It's like, she described herself as like a terrible shooter. And I'm like, oh, really? But your films are amazing. I was like, yeah, I'm a really good editor. You can create amazing stuff from very bad stuff.
I mean, that's also like a bit of a joke among us. Like, if you fuck up a picture in a way, it's like you make it black and white and then it looks like artistic.
I think you guys are kind of becoming a meme at the moment. This the whole like shutter drag, like I find it really funny. It's good.
Going back to like,
we look like in photography, we look a lot for these artifacts, like imperfections, like playing around with effects and
textures.
Textures and techniques to actually give those images something like unusual, like something
and
not
less
so
digital.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Talking about that then, like thinking of, you're at like a workshop or a couple session, the scene is set, the aesthetics of the couple are set. What are you looking for when you're going to create a frame? Are you like, what order of things is it? Lighting, composition? What are you looking for? Sort of.
I think like we are not so like composition heavy. Like some photographers, they are very much about composition, like very geometrical, which is like, it's kind of cool, but it was never actually our thing. There were like different trends circling through the wedding industry, like where people were standing like straight line next to each other, and like all these things that you then saw a lot. And then like right now there are like photographers who do it in a very like cool way, like having crazy compositions with like background, foreground, and all that kind of stuff. And for us it was always like more like organic, like more like close, more movement,
like a sensual thing. I think it's a lot about that feeling, and then I don't know, I feel like the rest comes of it. Like I think light and feeling it kind of in our mind, I think it flows together because you're looking through the lens and you see like how's this looking at the moment, but then if the moment is great, you want to take that picture, and then I feel we don't care about the composition too much in the beginning, but you can also crop afterwards. And
it can be like, I think it's more like a intuitive thing, like composition for us, while other people are very like planned out and very like methodical about composition. That's like not really our thing.
Yeah.
But I think our thing is like light and setting a mood, creating a mood for a couple. And like working towards this, like with all we got, like, but this is more like, I feel like it's a mixture of being like analytical about light or very aware about light and where to put someone, or like what to change in regards to the light situation to create a certain look. But then it's also like a lot about how people feel and to get people in a certain kind of movement. For us, it's super important that it doesn't look too stale or too stiff, we love this very dramatic postures, but we create them in a fluid way.
That's also what videographers told us, that it's easy to work with us because like how we direct is very much like they would do it for the video as well, because there's always movement happening and it's not like, stay like this. And,
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. I when I look at your portfolio, that's exactly how I feel about your images. Do you have any techniques then for working with couples to be able to get them that comfortable in front of the camera and in front of you? Because I know a lot of photographers who maybe say that's what they try to achieve.
Yeah.
But I've seen the way they go about it, and it seems their images, yes, but there's an artificialness with the way that they're trying to achieve the images. So can you talk a little bit about that and how you make it more of a genuine thing?
Yeah, I wanted to start with like maybe a counterpart to that, because being in front of the camera, like being photographed, I feel that was like a sort of core experience for us as well when we were speaking at a workshop, and then people took pictures of us and they were trying to create images with us in front of the camera. And I think they had approaches that like totally didn't feel good, like in our bodies. Like they were trying to create this dramatic thing. They were like, okay, and now your hands touch and you have to imagine you will never see each other again. And all that feeling is just like in the touch of your fingers. And you're like, like we were looking at each other just like, yeah, okay, just look, like just act it, but you knew you don't feel it, you know? So yeah, I think that was important to understand that, but you can talk about what we actually do.
Yeah. Although to be fair, at a workshop, it's very much a cold, like you're in the situation, like, because I know there can be a lot of build up to like client interactions online or before you meet them, and so don't feel too bad about yourselves, guys.
I think for me, it's a lot about like, in regards to the vibe you bring to the shooting, to come from like a genuine place, you know, to not like pretend certain kind of mood or whatever, like pretend to be super funny while you don't actually feel it or whatever. Like, I feel like it's always great to look for the genuine mood that the couple is in, to look for encouragement, to play around a bit.
I think it's so important that people don't feel judged or like they could embarrass themselves in front of you. Yeah. I think it's super important to not like laugh at the wrong point, but also not allow yourself to laugh if something's funny, because then it would also be inauthentic because everybody would get so stiff. But if you're just like, yeah, this is kind of funny, and now it's getting intense, and now I say something stupid, so we're laughing and it's okay, but we can still have fun while taking like more sensual images.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot, like for a lot of photographers, there's building up a lot of pressure during a shooting situation because they feel like they have to like deliver right now and like how to get the people like quickly comfortable and stuff. But I think a good thing to go about it is to involve the people in your actual process that you are like a little bit like trying around like now.
And that everybody has to get into it, and that's okay.
Yeah, and that you are like just like trying things. You're not actually sure if it's gonna work out. You can just say that, you know, and just like try with them, like involve them in an experimental process and let them know what you are doing. But like don't stress yourself too much about it, you know. Like try to create some kind of fluidity and some kind of like intimacy. You can encourage intimacy with the couple, like the way you talk to them, the way you maybe like are gentle with them, you know, just like if you give directions or whatever, don't be rough, like be gentle, like stay in the mood and like make it possible for them to actually connect and feel something towards each other. I think that's a good place to start.
Yeah, I think also what people have told us is maybe a bit unusual about the way we work is that we usually start super close with the couple. It's not like they're somewhere and we have like a long lens and we don't want to enter their personal space or something like that. Yeah. But we are way more about like, no, we want them to feel comfortable with us, and we will be close and we will probably touch them. And we might show them like also how to, in a way, touch each other, you know, just like so they get a feeling for it. Yeah. But then we like to tell them like, you don't have to worry about like your whole face and your whole posture yet. We're just taking some detail shots. So it's just about your hand, and they get more relaxed with that. And then when we feel like they're getting a bit into it, then we can take a step back and then maybe incorporate more into how they are moving or directions we are giving. And I feel like in the end, when we have like a full body thing, they had some time to warm up to that, and they aren't like, oh, what do I do with my hands, or what do I do, where do I look, or something, because we've already created like that closeness. And
I think like it's super important to communicate that that the shooting situation is actually an experimental space. You know, it's like kind of a safe space.
Yeah.
Like there is like no embarrassment possible. Like we have seen it all, you know.
And in the end, they will only, like, they know our work. They will only see the pictures that are beautiful. So
you gotta trust our vision, and you try to make them play with you.
Yeah, and I think it's also important that you just like give positive encouragement, even though you might try something and it totally doesn't work. You're never like, oh no, that doesn't look good, because that will like totally get them out of it and make them insecure about themselves. It's just like, oh yeah, that's beautiful, let's try something else. And in the end, they don't need to get that image. So it's
and then again, like if you are trying something and like create some kind of, I don't know, posture situation, light situation, whatever, and you see like it doesn't work out, it's totally okay to just say, okay, no, it looked different in my mind, we just like we'll try something else, you know, like like admit that you are doing like things that don't work out. It's fine.
And also, like, we don't, in the end, you don't need like to have 100 perfect couple images. Like we tell them, if you just have like 10 or 20 minutes, we will go with more like classic images to give you like the baseline. If you can give us more time, we can all get together and be more creative and play around more. So you might get like a bigger output in like your couple session in the end. But that's like up to you, and we will just go with the flow and with the day and how they are feeling. Even if we feel they get uneasy, we're like, we can also cut it here. It's okay. Like it's just going to be as much as you're comfortable with.
Yeah. That's really interesting that you said you start tight and then move back, because having spoke to a lot of photographers on here, you're right. Like most of them say, oh, we start wide and then we'll move in closer when the couple are comfortable with us. So it's interesting that you do the opposite, but it's also true that whenever Simon says, oh, don't worry about what your face is doing, I'm just getting a detail of your hands, it does just put them at ease, and they're like, oh, okay, right, I can just sit and chat to you and do something with my hands, it's fine.
It also builds connection, you know, like the physical proximity to someone, like they feel that they can trust you. I mean,
and I think it's like they can also mirror a bit like our energy, and they feel like that we are taking this serious and the way we talk to them, or we actually sometimes bring music to set a mood. That was also funny because we, in the beginning, we thought like, it's cool if they bring their music, like what they feel comfortable with. And then like the groom brought some like 80s disco thing, and we're like, okay, we will bring the music.
So have you got any like examples of a challenging shoot? Like maybe thinking more of like your early days where you're trying to establish the style and people aren't like, obviously right now your back catalogue and your galleries sort of speaks for itself. People know what to expect. So maybe in the early days, was there any challenging shoots where you had to overcome some obstacles? And is there anything that you can share with us?
First of all, I think like in the beginning, we always, because people, well, they book you, they book us, they book everyone like for a particular style. Usually they see something, I want to have that. So I think your first obligation is to tell them how to create this, you know, like on their wedding day, like how can it be like recreated in this particular style?
Because
we see us as like consultants, kind of, you know, we tell them how to get there, but it's their decision to like make this come to life or not, or like if they want to go with that approach or with that lighting situation, with that location or whatever, like they can also decide completely differently. We just tell them like, then maybe like the result will be a little bit different.
Yeah.
But
which is like classic thing. Like if they tell you, let's do the couple shoot at noon outdoors on a like green grass, it's not going to look like the images they might have seen from us. Because then we're like, no, we need like, give us a room and a window. We can work with basically anything, but if you want some of that aesthetic, we will have to work with that.
So I think there is like a conversation to be had like before it actually takes place, and then to set the right expectations, or like to pave the way to actually do this thing that you are like known for, or like that they want from you.
And also, I think one thing, if people like the sensual touch in our images, I feel sometimes it's like they have this romanticized idea because they would like to see themselves in that way, or also see their partner in that way. Yeah. But it's not how they usually interact with each other. So you have like a challenge of them. You're telling them to like be sensual, but you feel like they are so stiff with each other. And I feel like then it's especially challenging to deliver that. And I think that's where some of these more creative techniques are also very helpful. Like if you work with some more movement, some more blur, some more like manual focus or something to get that softness in it if it's like kind of lacking or they can't really provide it.
Yeah, that's also like you should have kind of like a realistic expectation, you know, because sometimes you have couples who are like very easy in front of the camera, and they have a very easy time to give into this mood and this whatever drama, laughter, or whatever you want to create. And then sometimes you have people who are like more reserved, or maybe they don't feel so comfortable. But I mean, the end result will probably not be the same level of, I don't know, cinematic looks or whatever.
Yeah.
But anyhow, it's like, this is not your job. Your job is to create the most beautiful thing in that particular situation
for this
particular couple, you know. And like we had a situation where we shot in Iceland, where because that's the first thing that comes to mind, where our clients asked us to create like pretty much like fine artwork, but we only were like, it was the evening, it was pitch black. We were only in a bar, you know, like some random bar, and we didn't brought our old studio setup.
It was
or whatever.
Like it was winter in Iceland, we had planned for an after wedding shoot the next day when there's like light, you know. But then it was the wedding day, and they were like, actually, we have some time now. We can take pictures. And we're like, this is not.
Yeah, and then they like put us kind of on the spot, but it wasn't a bad experience. Like eventually, because in that situation, you still got to figure out something, you know, like it makes you come up with something. So yeah, we used we had a speed light, which had a continuous function. And then we used that to create
that was it because we were traveling. We
brought the light source really, really close. And the look was a little bit overblown, but it went actually super well because it looked a little bit
1920s.
Like these old Hollywood pictures, you know, it worked really, really well. And I mean, in that situation, we absolutely like broke a sweat, you know, but it's still like great. And all these like challenges, I mean, something happens and somehow you get through them.
I thought of that other Iceland wedding where it was also funny because the plan originally was the next day to go like out into the nature and to some great beach and take dramatic, great images there. And then there was like a storm warning, which is like a thing if you're in Iceland already. So the weather was really like, no. And then we were at their hotel room and the groom was coming in like still in his, I don't know, bathrobe or something. And he was like, can we just do it here? And we're like, sure. Okay. Instead of like going out in nature, we will do like a hotel room session and try to make the best of it.
But like, this is the thing with weddings, right? You have to be spontaneous and you have to make everything work, like no matter what's thrown at you. And like, this is probably the greatest skill as a wedding photographer. You know, they book you for like being able to solve very tricky puzzles, you know, in regards to
they might not even know about that are challenges.
Yeah, like I can imagine if you share any of those pictures on Instagram, you'll get people commenting that it was a great concept and
of course
stunning images, not knowing anything about the challenge that you went through to get them.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I think that these are things that make you grow and like make your confidence grow.
Yeah.
And, like in
afterwards, like not in the moment.
Like after some anxiety attacks. But yeah, that's like normal and like How is it about you? Like, have you such a memory?
About challenging moments.
Sorry for asking questions back, by the way.
No, it's fine.
No, it's fine.
See, Simon takes the lead shooter role, so I'm usually just second shooter, doing more of the audio stuff. So when it comes to challenges, I'm looking at him more like
challenges. I don't. So things like rain that comes in and out, or the Scottish sun through the, like, if you're filming a ceremony, it can be like in and out. Really like those physical challenges are really difficult. I suppose the thing that maybe used to worry me was, in fact, I'll take this wedding as an example. Actually, we were shooting with a photographer who lovely to shoot with. It's Emma Lawson. And her color grade and her vibe, like, she's always after the couple smiling and she's always joking, contrasted with our kind of style, which is a balance between that, but there is that kind of like
the melancholy,
the melancholy as well. You know, we lean into the darkness quite often, and it was that interesting balance between just, you know, those two ways of shooting. Not something I worry about anymore, because I feel like as long as the couple are having a good time, and the banter was flowing, it was hilarious. Like, if I'm feeling good about it, then I know I can pull wherever I need to from an end.
But it's an interesting choice by your clients, right? To book her for the photography and book you for the videography. You have to make it work, but it's a challenge.
Good luck with this.
Yeah, good luck. But it's interesting. It's interesting too. But maybe they were having that. They wanted to have this like very light-hearted spirit in the photography, like in the documentary of the day, and then at the same time have these very like cinematic, poetic video memories. You know.
Yeah. But I think we've got such a good relationship with our clients that the worry that, you know, have they looked at our work? Do they know this is what we're doing? Because the photographer is doing something completely not the same. And I've always thought, I mean, I remember when it first happened and I was having these thoughts and panics, and then talking to a photographer, and then just realizing that it's actually pretty interesting how the way you see an event can change drastically, and how the way you work and that affects the final image. It's fascinating to me. So I don't worry about it anymore. I just make sure that the couples are having a great time. That's all I worry about. Like, if I leave going, oh man, you know what? I wasn't talking that much today. I wasn't feeling it. That's a bad day. And it's never happened yet. So, you know, as long as I'm having a good time, I'm having a good time.
Yeah.
That's a great answer. Thank you.
Maybe a bit long. Our listeners are like, come on, we're not here to listen to you speak, Simon.
We're good at this too. You give us like one question, we talk for 10 minutes, and then like, oh, you're still here.
Yeah, that would mean you're the perfect podcast guest. It's great. Don't worry.
Hey, I'm Ashley from With Jack. I'm one of the sponsors of the Perspective podcast. With Jack helps to keep photographers in business by supporting them financially and legally if they have problems with a client or they make a mistake in their work. We've all had that fear of our CF card or our hard drive failing and losing important photos. You can find out more at withjack.co.uk. Head over there and find out how we can help you be a confident creative.
You know, if I'm looking through your website, there's definitely a strong sense that you have a belief in inclusivity, which is something that I always love to see in a portfolio, or just that sort of message of, yes, we should all be representing more of other people, who these are, races, cultures, all that kind of thing. Like, is that something that you actively do, even in your daily life? Are you actively seeking that sort of inclusion with different people and different cultures? Or
I think because we have our yearly event, Legacy Workshop, where we try to do this actively, very actively, because I mean, there you have like in comparison to when clients inquire, whoever inquires. But if you create such a situation where you look for people who stand in front of the camera, it's a bit of a different story, you know. And in this case, like we actively look for like to have a diversity at the events. At the same time, this is like limited by the people you find to
that are available
for your events, because like this is like always a logistical challenge to actually compose the model portfolio for such an event. So we are a little bit limited by the possibilities of people who we find and then who are willing to come and, take part in this. But actually, I think it is important to have diversity in it. And with our clients, like we are pretty much like bound to who inquires us. So that's not really in our hands. But at the same time, like we are like absolutely open to photograph anyone who wants to be photographed, We don't have an agenda there. Like we also don't have an agenda on our social media, like not really a political agenda. I think we're just like super relaxed and easy and like enthusiastic
and
about
open-minded.
everyone.
I think we're just very curious, and also like early on we had like some like I think like Greek and Syrian weddings, and we experienced them as actually being kind of our favorites, and like stepping into these different cultures. I think it's so interesting because then you get like a different view on your own culture, and especially in weddings, and it's like huge differences. And it's like really, really beautiful to see. And if I could choose it, I think we would do less German weddings. But I think most people say that about like their own.
And I think it's actually like culture is the right word here, because like weddings are like such a cultural event, which are usually like they have like heavily, traditional elements, and they like vary depending on like who's getting married, and like in Germany everything is like usually pretty tame, while if you photograph more southern weddings, like there's a lot more like energy flowing.
I think that's also a huge difference. Like here it sometimes feels like you have people over for coffee and cake, or someone's having a birthday, and the people who are actually having the birthday feeling like the host, and they have to accompany everybody's needs. And that's also what carries over in weddings. Like the couple is worried, will the others be having a good time? And it's so cool to see that like in other cultures, people are more like, everybody's there to celebrate the couple, and the couple should just enjoy their day and fucking chill. So it's, I think it's amazing to see that different energy, and I feel like that carries over, and that also gives us a lot of energy. And
and I think the world elopement thing, that was like, I mean, it hasn't been for long that people get eloped so much, and I think that's great too.
Yeah, I think
for people cool. Because they actually feel like this big thing with 100 people or hundreds of people is not actually their thing, so they can do it in a like small circle of closest friends and family, or just the two of them by themselves, and that's amazing. I think that's also an amazing mode for like getting married and celebrating and then like honoring your love together.
We talked earlier about like how you interact with a couple and make them feel comfortable in front of the camera, but what are you doing in the lead up to a shoot or a wedding to build that trust and sort of comfort with a couple? Like, do you have video calls all the time? What's that process like?
We always have a video call. It's pretty much the first email, like after an inquiry. And I think there also it's super interesting because some people tell us like it's hard to get people to even commit to doing the video call. And I think there's a lot just in the wording. And I think if you tell people like, we would like to have a video call to tell you everything about ourselves and our work, people are like, okay, no, thank you. I don't need to be like sold whatever you're doing. But if you're more like, we're interested in knowing what you're interested in and what you're wishing for and finding out if we can be like the right choice for that, then I feel like people are very willing to just be, cool. I love to chat to you in person. And in that process, I think in the beginning we were asking ourselves like, how professional do we have to be? Like how performative, or I don't know, in those contexts to like, get across that we're like professional and we're doing a great job and they can trust us. And I feel like that gets like inauthentic, and we pretty much just threw that out the window and felt like, no, it's okay. We're confident in our work and we have enough proof to show it that we can just be ourselves and just talk to them human to human. And if that's a cool connection, there's enough like proof so they know we are still serious about our work and the quality of our work. And it's more like it's just a cool chat. And I think with clients where we really click, sometimes we just talk for 3 hours and laugh our asses off and just have a great time. And then we're just all looking forward to it and maybe start sending us like, I don't know, some Pinterest stuff that they're excited about, or
yeah,
that's
actually a thing, like, especially for like non-wedding work.
Creative shoots.
Pottery shoots, creative shoots, couple shoots, whatever. We really like to have this as a collaborative like prologue to the shooting, where we like find ideas together, like talk about like which fabrics to use, which outfits to use, which places, which moods. Like a Pinterest board is great for that, I think. Like to create a vision together, to develop a vision together.
And having like the couple already like as part of this process, it's also like if you think on the business side of things, it's also if people invest time and effort into something, they are like more attached also to the outcome and more willing to invest in the images afterwards. So I think this shit, like for us, it's cool because we like quality and like we prefer to work with fewer couples in a more connected way, like putting a lot of time and effort into one shoot, and not shooting like 20 couples a month or whatever. And that's also like, of course, reflected in the prices because it has to be. But then again, we create something together and there's like, I feel a high value exchange kind of going on. Like everybody puts a lot of energy into it to create like the best outcome.
I think to one more thing, to create a vision together, like it genuinely excites us, like it excites us to
see that they also have an idea.
And to take control and like to have like kind of an art direction, like to see where this could be going and like have a little bit of back and forth, like how we can get there, to the things that we envision or they envision, like the vision together with them.
Yeah. You mentioned the business side of things there, and there's the common misconception that creatives aren't good business people and whatever. But when we were talking to Lisa about Thrive, she mentioned that like you guys are really good with the business side of things as well. So how do you?
Depends on how you see it, but yeah,
how do you balance that sort of the business and the creative side of things? Like how do you approach that side of the business?
That was like a really long process in a way, because you start and you get into wedding photography, and then I feel like you at first get into this photographer side bubble. Like maybe we joined some Facebook groups in the beginning, and then you learn all these norms, and people are always talking about like what's the norm, like how many images should I include per hour, how many hours should the packages be, how should I deliver my images, and it should be an online gallery and it should be a USB or some prints or something like that, and then you try around with that. And I feel like we are talking a lot about staying true to yourself or finding your own voice when it comes to the artistic side, but we never really question like how to, like what kind of product to actually sell to the couple that also feels authentic to you. And I think with our approach, we went on kind of a journey because I felt like I always was in love with like tangible things. I think if you like old stuff and antiques, the thought of having this heirloom that's actually in their hands always excited me, because I feel like it creates new memories. They will come together. It's different than sitting on a laptop. But I also realized these albums, if they are like handmade and everything, they are fucking expensive. So like it also needs to be able, like we have to be able to pay for that. And then the usual approach is to add it to your packages. And that's kind of fine. Or you have it as an upsell. But it always felt in a way hard to convey that message, to tell people the really important part is like the album in the end, but it's not what we're actually selling. You have to buy that on top because what we're selling is digital images. So I felt like there was like a glitch in the logic of selling that, and realizing that the people you sell your photography to, they aren't photographers, they're not in this bubble. They haven't talked to 200 photographers who told them this is what they should expect. They are just people. And this might be like the first time they're actually in contact with a professional photographer. And we tried to really listen to our own intuition in this process. And I really didn't like how it went when it was just like an add-on. And then this proofing process of going back and forth with the albums. And it was just, I always felt like I would leave them with like something on their to-do list that's kind of annoying and it would take forever. And then I don't know, a year later, maybe they come back to you, and it was just not feeling right. And so we really, at one point, decided to actually switch it up and be like, okay, our final product is the album, and we're going to try how to sell that. So there was a time when we were actually selling the images by the image, so to say. So we had a base price to cover like our time and everything, but they would buy the images in the album afterwards with a price per image. Yep. And we went through that process with them. And then after a while, I realized that's not like really working so well, because if you have a page with like 20 pictures, that's just details. It's going to be super expensive with like not so important images, while a spread with like a super amazing image is going to be cheaper. And so we changed that to have a price per spread. And after a while, now we include full albums, whatever. But it was like a super intense process, and also very humbling and beautiful, because we do that with the couple together. Like we prepare a layout beforehand, but then we go through it with them. They can choose, we can change things up and everything. And so they have like this creative control in a way also for themselves. And there's like a guarantee. You don't tell them like going to have 1,000 images, but you don't know if you're going to like them. Maybe there's only 100 images or 200, but we are still here. Like we are still here for quality control, and we are still available for you and your wishes, and we can make changes, and you have like a guarantee that the images you get in the end are actually what you want and what you paid for. And I feel like they trusted it.
It's also like a great learning experience to see what images couples actually choose to buy.
Yeah. And not staying in that bubble.
Because there are a lot of like, for our, like, we can only talk about our clients because other people have like different kinds of clients. Some people have like very humorous style of photography, so they would like pick totally different pictures than our clients. But for us, it was very interesting to see what they are actually willing to buy. You know, like apart from like the conceptions we have as creators, like
what makes a good picture,
what's cool, you know, and like. Yeah, that was a very revealing process, and it's very interesting to talk to them and like to find out why they decide for a particular picture.
And they also have to like discuss about that with each other in front of us, more or less, which also needs a lot of trust. But it was also amazing to not like, I felt for a while, I felt like it was a very disconnected process, just sending out this link, maybe getting an email back, and you never felt like what you actually provided for someone. And this way we have like a fixed date with them, and it's a date for them too. And there's like a first time they see their images, and it's like this next nice like date they're having with each other. And we've had a couple, for example, I guess they had a fight before. So they were sitting like on opposite ends of the sofa when the camera turned on, and we were like, this is going to be a great day. And but then we showed them like the slideshow, and we were just seeing them getting closer and closer together and getting closer to the screen, and in the end both crying. And you see like that's also part of their experience. And you really learn a lot. Like as a photographer, if you would just build the album, you would maybe think like, that's so emotional, the lighting is perfect, let's put that huge into the album. But the couple will tell you, oh yeah, that's just my, I don't know, that's the new girlfriend of a cousin. She's always crying. I don't care about her. I want that totally bored old guy. Because that's how my grandfather always looks, and I love it. And that's so him. And this is important to me.
Yeah.
And I think you learn a lot of stuff where you would be like, these are like my most important images. And then, it's like really for the client. And I think that's a conversation lots of people aren't having. They are talking to other photographers way more than they talk to the actual people they work for.
Do you think that learning process has had an effect on how you shoot a session? Like, do you think you aim for certain pictures because people have been buying that type of picture?
I think less in that regard. For me, it's more about like this creative freedom kind of thing, that I think about the spreads even while shooting, and how that scene could look and what would be like cool to add there, or I think more in that regard.
Yeah, I think it doesn't really influence our shooting process itself, because that's something we really trust in. We feel really confident with. Like, I think it's maybe it's palpable in the selection process sometimes, because over time we became more aware of certain things that are not going to work for the client. so they will not choose it. But like in general, I think a good selection process is kind of important, to be sensitive for certain things. Like, for example, like usually people hate themselves with double chins, or like when their arms are not like in a flattering way, or that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Then again, there are photographers who have a very humorous approach, and then for them, like it might be very, very different.
Yeah.
Like people might pick this particular picture because it's funny and maybe unflattering, but yeah, just like speaking from our own perspective, there was a lot to be learned. But I think it's more like it's more like connected maybe to the selection process, not so much to the shooting process itself, because that one is very intuitive and organic, and we developed it over such a long time, so it feels very like do it with confidence. And
yeah, I think also one interesting aspect about this is also this artist versus like being a service person kind of thing, because what we tell also our clients is like in the end we are working for them, and that's also what we try to achieve. And with this going through this process of designing the album, we also say to them, like, of course we make a choice in the beginning of like, for example, black and white or color, but if they see it and they would like to see it differently or prefer another edit, we tell them we can do that. Like, it's not that we are like, this is our creative vision, this is what you have to come up with or have to deal with in the end. We want it to be like the most beautiful thing, basically your own. And also if you feel like they're a bit like, I'm not quite sure about that image or not, we're like, we don't want you to want to skip a page in your album. If you don't love it, it's not in there. So of course there's also like a lot of motivation to actually take the pictures people are going to love. And if we do it outside of weddings, even more so, because there we had an approach which was basically just a very low session fee. And we only earn money if they love the images afterwards, because they will buy them as like printed products. And that changes how you work. And it also, like, on the other hand, is very rewarding if they are like, yeah, we hate ourselves in front of the camera. And in the end, they buy like your biggest package and you're like, yes, amazing,
I think it's great if clients are actually willing to give you like full creative, to be fully in charge creatively, like to encourage them to, because sometimes they have like concerns. Can we do it a different way? And then you say like, well, you looked at our pictures, you loved what you liked, that's why you booked us. So the way to get there most easily is for you to trust in our like creative ability and how we do things, how we approach this, how we set up the situation and stuff. And usually we were lucky enough for people to put us fully in creative charge, just to say like, do your thing. Like, we trust you. We trust that you're doing what needs to be done, And like,
If you're listening to this, listeners, people out there, and you're wondering how this focus on the album is presented on their website, because obviously a point of conversation that we have quite often is, do you show your pricing or do you not show your pricing? And that's kind of the end of it. They talk about how they work and them as a creative person, but on their website there's nothing really much about anything. But it's very clear that you guys are doing that with that focus on that album, because you have on your website, you don't mention your prices or packaging or anything like that, but the focus is on creating an heirloom. And you've got this very nice slow moving video of someone actually demoing the album and opening it up and seeing and showing what a couple are going to be getting. And I think that is a powerful thing when you're actually not just telling them, showing them, and that's having a focus on.
In the first conversation, we usually show them about like 3 different designs, like virtually, where we click through it, and it's already, they don't see like just single images. They see how it can look like layout, and that already sets like the expectation. And I think it's also a very cool way to actually talk about, like, in a very practical way about how we work, because we can tell them, like, in this situation, for example, I was standing there, Victor was there, I was here while that was happening, and this is like how the scene looked. Or you have like some anecdotes from the couple, and you have an emotional reaction to it, and that also transports to the people in front of you. And I feel like they get a way better idea about the way you work how you choose stuff, whatever, and what also their possible influence is on the finished outcome if you present your work that way.
Yeah. So obviously, if a potential client comes on your website, they can't see prices or whatever, or even how you structure your packaging. And I think a lot of creative people do conceal their prices and their packaging and all that kind of stuff, but it does make it harder for photographers to kind of get a sense of how they should or shouldn't be pricing their services. And I think there's a lot of people that just don't want to talk about money and stuff. So if you don't mind, how do you on the back end price, like obviously you mentioned the high end package, if someone goes and buys that, it's a good day, but like how do you structure your package? What do you actually offer on the back end? Can you go into a little bit of that for especially for photographers who maybe are newer to the industry and maybe want to try out something that's not standard?
Yeah. For us, like we always start, of course, like with the personal conversation. And I think that's also something you have to think about. If you talk to someone and you ask them, what's your budget for photos? They will tell you a very different number than after having that sort of conversation and actually understanding what it is, like the process they're going to go through with us. Like their understanding before we talk about prices is already, okay, there's going to be like a lot of time, a lot of service, like a tangible product in the end. And that will like have completely changed the expectations of the numbers they're going to hear in the end of that. And we had like a long time where we made just custom collections. So we really put like their name, their wedding date and everything on it. And then it was a very basic collection that basically covered like, I think in the beginning it was like 6 hours of shooting. I think travel costs in Germany were included. And then for the longest time we had it like 100 images, or I think after that like the 20 first spreads of your album are included. And everything else is like an upsell afterwards. So there, it already says like what additional hours costs and what additional images or spreads will cost afterwards. And usually they got like the space collection and then also the custom collection when we talked about like maybe how many hours it would be and how big the album could get. And then they would have like a sort of discount if they booked the bigger collection immediately, but they could also do it afterwards.
Okay.
And after a while now, when we got contacted by like some wedding planners, we understood it's hard to explain to them what our process looks like and then them having to explain it to the couple. So we made like a brochure where you already see it's also super focused on the album and also showing images of like the handmade process of how these albums are created, of like the cover choices, and then having collections and of course an about and some like stuff about our philosophy in shooting. And then we just created like based on these pricings we worked out with a lot of couples because we kind of then knew, okay, this is how many spreads it usually ends up with and all of that. And this is how much time it costs. Then we created packages. So we can just easily like give that on and they can just give it to the clients. And that worked pretty well. And by now I think it's the full day more or less covered.
Yeah, we ditched the idea of like charging per hour because we felt like it doesn't really make a lot of sense to us because there is like a sensible timeline to photograph the wedding, you know, like it changes like for each wedding, but there's like a useful starting point and a useful end point.
And of course that's
and we didn't want them to like skip an hour at the wrong part of the day or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
And also I think the people usually trust in you. So in the beginning, maybe you think, then you're going to shoot for 16 hours. And we're like, no, because we tell them it makes sense to maybe have like half an hour or an hour of the getting ready and maybe half an hour after the first dance. And that's like a good time frame. And that's usually, I don't know, about 10 hours or something like that. And we didn't want to make that like part of their decision. We wanted them to choose based on other things. So like our biggest package, because we love to work that way, is actually includes like an after wedding shoot, like the next day or something, which is especially for destination weddings. It's cool if you just have like a relaxed extra day and you can go somewhere else and you don't have the pressure of the wedding day. And
this is actually an amazing option to go for. For example, you just like photograph like the wedding day itself for 8 hours, 10 hours, whatever, however long it takes. And then for the next day, you just like go for a full creative shoot somewhere and like not limited by the schedule of the day and, the expectations of the guests, and they are like more free, more relaxed. The downside is, of course, that you either need a new styling or you do style yourself,
or the people have to be a bit relaxed. Yeah, with that.
You don't have to have the wedding day styling. But other than that, I think it's a great option. You can also do it the day before, like we had that too.
Yeah.
And then, like because you were asking about our packages, like we have 3 options. And the base option is, well, not so often booked, but it's like 6,000 plus travel and accommodation. And then the middle package is 9,000 plus travel and accommodation, and like it includes the full gallery. And then the biggest package is like the split thing
with the after wedding shoot.
Yeah, where we shoot like the wedding day, and then we have a little shooting afterwards. It's like 12,000, and like we had a few weddings that were a little bit more, but yeah, that's like the price range.
Nice.
And yeah, like for some people it's crazy high, and then again, we know people that shoot weddings for 20,000 or 30,000. So yeah,
there's
it's always like relative,
and it has to work. And I think we would never have come to those prices if it wasn't for like the steps before, because that's where we learned like how much time goes into creating all of this, and also how much people are actually valuing it, and the shared process of selecting the images. Because I think if you don't have that on your mind, you just start at some point and you maybe go a bit higher or not. But I think we would never have had the confidence if we wouldn't have seen people actually spending that kind of money with us when they have the choice of how much they spend, because it's not all included in the package. And I think that was very important to get there.
Yeah. And I suppose that all comes down to communicating with the right type of people. By presenting yourself in a genuine way, you attract those genuine couples who want the heirloom, who want to spend that time with you. So
and it's also, you have to like actually believe it. I don't think everybody should do this approach, because it is very, very like time intensive. It is very close. It is very personal. There are people who are better off just shooting like 2 weddings each weekend, because that's like their energy levels are just like that, and they don't like the other part of it. But I think especially if you work like more low volume, like then for us it makes sense, and we prefer to work deeper like with that one client. And
yeah, definitely.
I get that.
Should be
that being said, like weddings are probably not the most lucrative thing you could do. You could do other stuff like commercial photography, or like like studio portraits and stuff, where you can like you have a better return on time spent. But
yeah.
Or you could just do the whole, is it Jonas Peterson creating digital AI art and then selling it for big bucks? Like,
should we jump to show and tell? Look at some of your images.
oh, really? Oh, now I want to hear your opinions. I'm going to ask you after the show and tell. I'm going to remember that. All right, cool.
I think, shall I say something about AI?
Go for it.
Yeah, go on then, before we start. Go on.
Okay, actually, I think like one of the biggest problems is that the average Instagram user isn't even aware of this whole thing, and they see pictures that are created with AI and they are spectacular. So what happens is that the bar is raised so much for what people perceive as a impressive image, even though most of them are not created by humans, and like a human person cannot create this spectacular images in such a high quantity. So what happens is for like photographers that like the perception of their work is like degrading, like in regards to how impressive it is. And that for me is like it's like a big problem for photographers. And like there are 1,000 other problems too, but maybe
that's
I'm not going to talk about them right now, but it's interesting, but it's very worrisome to me.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty valid point. Yeah.
Yeah, and not even to mention the the moral ethics of it, which you could have a massive conversation.
Yes.
That's like the next 2-hour conversation.
Yes, absolutely.
Part 2.
But it's also like a funny, like, to attach now to that image, because now we get to like digital art in a way. So
Yeah.
Well, I mean, guys, talking about raising the bar, like, your portfolio is stunning. You don't need a computer to feel like you're not being the best creative person you could be.
but actually, there's a lot of computer action going on.
Yeah, this like well, yeah, but
so,
not AI though.
Yeah, I know. Sorry.
But who we were talking to Bell Art Photography, Becky at Bell Art Photography, and I'd picked one of her images, and she was talking about how you guys were an inspiration for one of the images, and I had already picked the show and tell images already, and it was one very much like this, and I love an image like this. One big fan of black and white in general, but there's just something so almost outer worldly to this. I think it's got something to do with the shape of the dress and the textures, and obviously the top down lighting. Actually, but
we can say a bit about this particular picture if you like.
Yeah, absolutely. Please do.
So this was like part of a series we shot for Hasselblad, actually, for the master's book when we won the masters, and then like, because we wanted to come up with like 10 impressive images, and like if you need to deliver like, or ask yourself to deliver 10 impressive images, that's not actually easy. You know?
Can I add, because like you win this competition by sending over like 3 images, but these might be your favorite images you took in like 3 years, you know?
Okay.
And then you win, and then they're like, now here's your project, and now recreate on that level, but like 10 to 12 images on one day, and you're like, oh shit, like, how can you do that?
Fuck, what?
So what we did with this particular shooting was like, there was like the shooting itself, then there was also like digital manipulation involved. But then there was also like, I wanted to have another layer to it. So we printed it on Japanese fine art paper and re-digitalized it, and then layered it. So we have the textures of the Japanese paper in it. I don't know if you see it on your screen.
Oh yeah,
it's there. So we did a lot of experimentation with that, and I'm personally, I love mixed media, like experimenting. We are not very purist about photography, even though pure photography is beautiful, but like I'm not purist myself, so I always look to bring in some kind of elements that, I don't know, feel more like tactile to me, you know, like a painting more, like something I could experience in a different way. And I always feel like I want to take away the digital edge, because oftentimes, and we feel the same about it, oftentimes images just feel too digital to me. I mean,
they don't connect to it.
Yeah, they don't have this particular magic that I'm looking for. So oftentimes it's pictures that are like blurry, or like have some kind of surrealism to them, or like
grainy,
grainy or stylized, or a little bit abstract in regards to light and shadow. Yeah.
How, I mean, when you're, for example, using the texture in this digital image, is that because in your mind you know you're not going to be printing this, or would you create this and then print it?
Well, it's actually printed in the master's book.
Right. Okay.
With the textures,
it's printed with the textures.
Actually,
okay.
Because we of course knew that it's going to be printed in the master's book. So,
but if you would just print it on that paper,
wouldn't be, you can just like print it on that paper, which makes it more interesting. You know, like we should probably all print a lot more stuff that we do.
Yeah. Well,
like we have printed some images, but like not a lot.
And, So I don't know if many people know like printing and you really got to think about what you're printing on what material, because like something with such a heavy black emphasis, you know, with those grains, like a lot of that almost definition, because you got quite a lot of definition in here.
Yeah.
That would just kind of fade away.
I did
Almost like a tattoo on your skin. It would.
Yeah.
So
I did a lot of layering, like afterwards, like working out a few more details, which got lost
digital,
when it was printed, and then I recovered them with the digital file.
Okay.
So it's like a really mixed process. By the way, like Folio Albums, they are our album provider. They are in the UK. And we are not paid for this, but they are pretty amazing. So they are like our
they feel like
trusted
another
resource of printed products.
Like another team member.
So why did you go with them?
I already, like in the beginning when I researched albums, I fell in love with their work, but it was too expensive. Like there were cheaper options. So we tried a lot of different options before that. And we just basically lost tons of hours and money to that because the results just weren't as good. The customer service wasn't, like if there was a mistake, you would have to pay for it. You would, I don't know, like the colors weren't right. They also had like, for example, the crease in the middle, it can like break, the ink can break. And we had that problem with one supplier and, they just didn't care, but there was something like the texture of the paper, something got changed. That's why it didn't work that well anymore. And they just didn't care. And Folio is just not like that. Like they save us so much time and money because they check your designs, which is just crazy. Like if you would send like a pixelated picture to most providers, they would just print it and say, that's your problem. With Folio, they are so precise that they told us stuff like, this is like 2 millimeters of the middle. Do you want it that way? Or like there was a tiny copy of an image. I don't know how that happened, like somewhere in the corner. And they say you that beforehand so you can fix it. And the result is perfect. And I think we had like one time where like something on the cover wasn't quite right. And they just had someone like pick it up, fix it, send it back to us within, I don't know, that was like 5 days. And it's just like you have this very personal connection to them. Like we talk to the owner and they are just super idealistic and they are just smaller. And I feel like they care so much. Like he told us like the way we bend over backwards to make our clients happy, that's also what they are trying to do. And you really feel that like for years we're in contact with the same people and it's,
and I think there's like this little problem of Brexit, you know, like everything got more expensive for suppliers of products. That was pretty terrible. So you have to pay a little bit of extra tax, you know, if it's imported. But like on the other hand, you can like that can be reflected in your prices, and eventually it's not so much. So we still go with it anyway. So
and I think in a way they were part of like wanting to develop that business model to be able to pay for those products we really believe in, because they have also super high like eco credentials and it's like just in line with a lot of our values. And I think that's just super cool to,
Sometimes the cheaper option is definitely not the best option. Like it's worth paying for that quality for customer support and everything.
Can I? Sorry, I was just about to see Greg skip to the next one. With this image in particular, can you like when you say you did digital manipulation to this image, what exactly did you do? What did you manipulate to create this?
So it was a dark scene. Actually, it was captured in a dark scene, but like I pulled the background all the way down.
It's kurz beschreiben. So it was like it was taken just like on a staircase in a room where there was like a skylight above. That's like where the dramatic like light comes from, and then it was like completely taken out of the scene.
Yeah, so I created kind of this negative space in this picture, like very dark, and there was also like another picture or another few pictures in that series that were like the opposite, like they were very whitish or very bright.
Yeah.
Also with a lot of negative space. So that's what I played around with a lot before doing wedding photography, actually, because I did a lot of composite work, which played a lot with negative space, because I felt like this, I don't know, I felt kind of attracted to this minimalistic concept of a picture.
Yeah.
I also feel very attracted to the opposite, like when everything is like
Just
very
bright
rich
and white.
and very
Yeah.
detailed and very like a lot of textures and a lot of stuff, like very opulent. So there are like these two directions that attract me usually. But yeah, so yeah, and the dress was obviously altered. It was pretty funny because we got a request at some point. It wasn't about this particular artwork, but another one. And then like someone inquired us, and like she gave that picture to the dress designer and asked her to
make
create
her a skirt like that.
Make her a skirt like this. And I think the dress designer was a little bit lost.
I mean, like, we're so sorry. Like, this is not real. Like,
Yeah.
You see, you don't need AI to cause trouble.
Yes.
You do it for dress designers. You're like, you bastard.
But this is crazy actually for someone like me who like learned this craft of digital manipulation, and then like see AI like taking over, and you just like can't keep up with this.
We did this for fun, like in the past. Victor like did these bigger composings, and it would take like, I don't know, 20 hours or something.
Wow.
And then we tried to recreate something like that with AI, like just of some behind the scenes shot, and it took like 20 minutes. And we're like, this is so depressing.
Really depressing.
Yeah. Oh, damn. All right. Okay, let's go to the next image, Greg. I can see your. So this probably, if I was thinking about what you were saying earlier, if this was a wedding, which it may well not be, you said you start really close. So to me, this is like an image you'd get maybe straight out the gate, which kind of blows my mind a little bit. But there is a definite sensual, almost like an aggressive kind of sensualness, which I don't think is often portrayed well.
Yeah.
But I really love this image. Again, it's black and white, so you've got those kind of gradients of like the hair with the hand and the out of focus depth because you're so close, and the fact that it's soft, like you were saying, using those kind of like out of focus ways to combat your limitations. Tell me about this image. And is this a real wedding?
No.
Yeah.
No, it was a couple shoot. Actually, it's like friends of us who like, I did this during a workshop. Like we like took a room. Well, we had the room, but like we went to a room together, and then like I photographed them in a very.
I took them to my place, and we had wine, and then.
So it was actually a very vulnerable situation, because like they were undressed, and like I photographed them in a way they hadn't been photographed before, and like I felt very honored to do this. But it was like very calm, very silent, like just like very gently encouraged them to, I don't know, flow with each other, to be very loving and caring, and like it looks a little bit more like the picture looks a little bit more savage than the situation was. Like, it was very gentle, in fact.
That's why I said it can be like that sort of image can be portrayed.
Yeah.
In like a slight variation on tone could shift this image, and I just love the fact that you've balanced it.
Yeah.
So well.
I mean, we posted this with some poetry, also like poetry on top of it. Like we felt like sometimes it's really nice, like complementary to mix poetry with pictures. Actually, I think we should do it a lot more. Or it should be done a lot more. But the shooting situation was very, very calm and very, very like vulnerable. And I love that they shared this moment with me. I was very thankful, and I wasn't actually giving a lot of direction. I was like more the observer and like maybe like some gentle directions. But it was very like laid back and beautiful moment. So and very genuine. So
Yeah.
I think that's also something you have to think about. Like, are you actually comfortable with people being sensual in front of you? Do you bring like a naturalness to the scene, or do they feel weird because you're not authentically feeling okay about it? But we've had like, nude shoots, or also did something for a friend recently where there was like a group of people like just flowing with each other with no clothes on. And we're like, are we going to be weird about it, or are they going to feel weird about it? And it was just completely natural to us. So I think that's also important. Like, who's like the person behind the camera, and can they actually?
That sort of situation for us, and like a certain photographer, they could freeze up, or they could just start to spurt random crap that could make it awkward very quickly.
I mean,
the spirit you have that carries over, right? Like, even if you don't say something, if you're a little bit like awkward, they will probably feel it. And it will probably
energetically, it's just.
And I mean, I don't want to have a warning here, but as a male video person who is with the bride at preps, I portray myself in a way because I want to be in the more intimate moments, and that can be you have to kind of parse out the kind of the way the bride views you and your role on the day. But I have worked with a photographer who undermined me and got me thrown out of the room, and I just thought, you've now spun an image of me and you've made it creepy. And I really didn't appreciate that sort of communication because it had a detriment to the way the couple viewed me. So just be careful out there, whether you're a photographer, a planner, it doesn't really matter. If you're talking about your colleagues or whatever, even if it's a little bit of fun and banterful, just be careful, because you could shift some, the way that someone sees you.
I think you can also have a conversation in the room, like a direct conversation. Like, are you comfortable? Like, if they know you and you've built some trust, and even if the other people are there, and you're like, are you comfortable with me staying here, or would you prefer if I stepped outside? And
absolutely.
And then if the bride is like, no, I trust you, totally do your thing, then everybody else is pretty much also briefed that it's okay, you're there, and they can let you do your thing.
Yeah, definitely.
That must be a weird feeling.
It was. I mean, it's interesting because sometimes I need to, like, I've been married for 14 years. I've got 3 kids, so I don't have that wall anymore of, like, I don't know, how would I naked person. Like, there's a whole load of nakedness in my house, even today, and it's just.
I think also, like, if people are photographers themselves, they know that change, I feel like, in perspective. Like, you're not looking at anything like a sexual object in that moment. You get like in this aesthetic mode. You see like forms, you see light, you see all of that. You want to capture a feeling. You're not like looking at it and be like, oh, that's so hot. No, that's not going on in your mind.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I am obviously very aware that some, like, a lot of people, especially early on in their relationship, they do have that wall still. So I need to be, for example, if I'm going to mic the bride, sometimes I will forget, like, to just ask, or not ask, but like there's a way you need to approach people to be intimate with their,
of course,
with their breasts, and putting a mic on someone. So, for an example, anyway, let's move on, Greg. Let's move on, Gregory. So. This image
that looks so dark right now, but
hopefully you can make out what one it is of yours.
I was actually worried about this because I am drawn to the darker images in your work. So can you see this okay? You know the image?
We know what it looks like, but I think the viewer won't really see a lot.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Sorry about that.
So I know. Well, I'm hoping that most of them, I'm not hoping that most of them are listening and not seeing, because I want people to see this part of the video. But anyway, the reason I chose this work, other than all the aspects that we've talked about, the negative space and the darkness and the even going down to the sensualness, which again is, this is, it balances so well that sensualness. And I think your hands around the neck area can be almost triggering for some people, and I completely understand that. But that's almost why I like this image. But it's also got this texture, and I remember thinking it's not paper texture like the first image. It's kind of like you're shooting through glass, and it reminded me of a.
I can explain. I can demystify.
Demystify.
Take the magic away.
So what I also do is sometimes actually do digital painting. So you have like kind of a digital oil brush. It's not like an automated sequence or whatever, but like I do it manually, and I just do some kind of digital painting sometimes if I feel like it. That's getting back to what I said earlier. Like, I'm not a purist for photography, and sometimes I just love to play around. I have like deep affection for paintings. And I think that reflects in some part of our work. So this is like a mixed media thing, it's photography and it's also like digital painting.
Yeah. Okay. Are you shooting through anything at all? Or did I just see something else there?
We are doing all kinds of stuff. Yeah, rarely, but like we are doing a lot of stuff, like mostly, I mean, we got a little bit tired of it, but there are a lot of these Tiffen filter stuff and, like diffusers, diffuse pictures, which diffuse filters, which spread the light across the picture and like make the light sources more dreamy. I think it's great to use, especially like a very soft one. It's very nice and flattering, especially for wedding photography where light is sometimes like too harsh. Contrast is sometimes too harsh. But then it can also get old pretty quickly. So you really have to see, to not. So
you don't feel like this one trick pony.
Exactly. Oh, that's how I felt about it. So
that's how I made my heart like my life harder.
So, so I like, I mix it up. Like I use this, and like we also do a lot of other stuff. Like we do manual focusing usually for portraits.
Some freelancing.
Some effects. Like we put a lot of stuff to work actually, different stuff to create some kind of weird effects to pictures. And then there's also a lot of stuff you can do with reflections. We have a photographer friend who's really amazing at that. Kafa Liu, he's from Canada. He does a lot of crazy cool reflection stuff. So there are a lot of different ways, and we feel like every time you start to play,
something happens.
Amazing happens, something unexpected happens. It's really easy to fall in love with the pictures you create when you play.
Yeah, I think there's so much limitation in your mind if you think like you have to have the picture figured out before taking it. That you have to have this plan and it has to look this way. Because I think a lot of the images we love the most are just like because we try something, and this looks cool. And it's not like we've set it up and there was this whole plan going on. It's just something that happened because we tried different things.
Yeah. And that all comes back to, like you said, that you tell your client that we're just trying something here. Might not work, might work.
Yeah.
And then
I think it's about not taking yourself also too seriously or to over-identify with that role of having to be like this professional artist or whatever. It's just like, no, we're just people. We find this cool. This is like, we're a bit nerdy about it. Let's have fun.
I think it's great to have your methods in place, for
the safe shots also.
To be reliable in what you create. So we have our methods in place to create these movements and this natural character to pictures. But at the same time, there always have to be room for you to say like, this didn't work and we will do something else, Like there's this mixture of being, reliable or have your reliable techniques. And then also like there's room for play, where everything's uncertain, but amazing things can happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next one.
Yeah, absolutely. So this one,
it gets darker by the minute.
So this one, like you mentioned scenes and color and stuff. This one stood out to me because like I almost get goosebumps when I look at it because it's like chillingly
like
horrifying.
From a horror movie, a little bit. I think people won't even recognize it. I think it's like a hand behind some sort of glass. With like a lot of red and green color casts.
This was actually captured like behind some kind of milky glass. I don't know if it's the right expression in English.
I think it was a shower, right?
Or glass in the shower or something like this. And then afterwards, I went a little bit creative with the color grading.
And especially this red and green contrast is something that's often used, also like in.
So was this a personal project? Was this a
I think
we did that, right?
I think we did that.
I think that's me. I think that's my creepy hand.
It's a long time ago, but like for me personally, I find it super important to shoot personal projects too. Like for me personally, I mean, I know quite some people who just like grind professional work, and there's like no space, no time for like personal exploration and personal creative experiments and stuff. But for me personally, it's like the air to breathe, like I need this to stay inspired and to keep myself moving creatively and try new things, and sometimes just do it for my soul, because I love it, for the love of photography.
And getting out of like, I think your own limitations in your mind, especially if you've done something that kind of works, then again, I don't know, maybe adding some extreme color when the last images are all black and white, and then it's just,
and then also
you don't have to stick to something or some expectation you think people have of you. Like you're the artist, like you can.
And then also to find your way back to who you are creatively, because that can get lost so easily, especially
when working for clients.
When working for clients and like having this, consistent language, visual language, where you create the same stuff all the time for your clients, and then after a while, some people get in a crisis and they are wondering like, what's my actual visual voice, I don't know. I've lost it. I've forgotten what it is. So for that reason,
I'm getting bored by my own work.
Yeah, or I'm getting bored. We hear that often. And so, I think it's great to do these personal projects, to discover yourself again, like, and to stay in touch with your personal expression.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm gonna pull up the last one.
Go for it. So the last one's actually,
see how dark this is.
So I'm realizing we should probably get a black table so it doesn't reflect. We've got a light right above us.
We have to like do a new setup just for doing this stuff with our images.
So this one, again, I feel like I've selected very similar images. I've one trick ponied myself. But the reason I picked this out is because you have a whole series of these kind of images where you actually, I mean, I would assume you've brought it into After Effects and you've added this kind of ethereal movement. Whether it's what would you say that is, Greg? Like a texture. What's that effect called?
Particle generator.
A particle generator effect, and it's almost like the image is ripping itself apart, which is beautiful for me because of the way the top down lighting is incorporated into the image as well. It's like they're drawn by some other outerworldly force. But it was the movement that,
like underwater or something.
I think it reflects probably a little bit our affection for like the epicness of movies like Lord of the Rings and that kind of stuff. We love all these things. And I think sometimes that just reflects in the work that we create. Like we had a lot of these centered compositions, which like are very like epic and spectacular. And, I personally love this. It's still like the minority of our work, like most of the things are like, more like fluid in motion, close-ups and couple and sensuality and stuff. But like, I think it's cool to explore different kind of art styles or different visual styles. For me, it's it's a more rewarding experience creatively to try around different stuff. Also, like working with light, working with available light, working with studio light, working with just candles or whatever.
Different
like
programs, software.
different programs, different textures, it's interesting because sometimes we talk about this whole topic of consistency versus diversity or creativity and stuff. And for me, like, there's always a consistency visible in something that the person creates, like even though our pictures are in fact like visually sometimes very different in the art style, they still have some kind of a consistency in regards to the mood they tell about, or the mood they have, so like I think there's always a consistency in the way a person sees the world. And I don't know what your experience is, but maybe you have also like created different things of videos and different projects and stuff, but they always kind of reflect who you are. It's the same for me and the same for us.
Yeah. Why did so for those watching the video, I don't know how clear this is, but there is movement in this. This is a video file. So why did you incorporate the movement, and how did you do it for those who are maybe wanting to see
this is like a super absolute exception where I used like this like a rendering tool for create movement. So you could like set where to create the movement, and then it like animated a picture into movement, while you also define which points of the pictures are like fixed and don't move. So I felt like this goes together really well with this floaty, surreal, foggy, mystical character of this particular picture. So that's why I went for it. But I think I only did it for like 2 or 3 pictures ever, and then like I already put my mind to something else.
Was it After Effects that you used, or?
No, actually, I've forgotten about it. There was
like some.
There are some rendering tools which can animate your pictures, and I can't remember the name because it goes a few years back. But it wasn't After Effects. But I think like looking into After Effects, I mean, I haven't worked with it, but probably amazing possibilities.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a steep learning curve, though.
It is. Honestly, there was like 1 year I tried to get into it years ago, and I like the most basic shit took me so fucking long.
I mean, I find it so interesting. I looked a lot into this making of stuff for Dune. And Dune 2, and it's really inspiring. I mean, the genius that goes into these projects, especially with this new technique of this so-called volume, this 360-degree screen around the scene.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it?
Which lights the scene, so everything looks super coherent, which makes a lot of sense, but it's crazy. Like, I find it very fascinating.
Yeah.
So, thinking about Thrive, it's not long now. What can people expect from your day 2 sessions? What are you going to be bringing to those?
I think they can expect to learn about how to create these particular pictures that we showed, or that you showed, that we talked about a lot. So we will introduce them to our way of working, like very like, it's not spectacular, but it's still very hands-on. And I think they will take away a lot of the vibe and techniques that we bring into a shooting to create this, to be able to recreate this. At the same time, we will always like encourage people to also go their own way about it. That's also always what we do. Like, we don't want them to just imitate what we are doing, but like work with them on like how they can solve this puzzle of creating beautiful images,
and give them some tools also, just like these very practical techniques we use, because I think often like the images we find interesting aren't like just, okay, this is just a sharp image of this situation, but it's like, because I don't know, there was like some freelancing involved and some manual focus, and why do we choose which image and stuff like that? So like there's like this little toolbox that you always have available. And I think just making that more conscious for people to try around. And also I think encouraging people to really go into their own kind of intuition and trusting it more. Because I think we all know that situation when you're in a room, something looks kind of nice, and then you take like 30 same images because you don't want to change it up, or you don't want to make them feel uncomfortable, or like something isn't working, but you have that you already know, like that's it's not right. And you just have to like get more into trusting that and also realize everybody else like has it too. Like we're not except from that. You have to like just learn how to deal with that and just embrace it. And and
I think they will get to know our way of working, which is very calm and very like kind of slow paced. Like there is always movement, but it's kind of slow paced. So it's also kind of introvert friendly, which is great for some. You know? Like it's not, you don't have to be all over the place with our working style. So
awesome.
And
nice.
Before we wrap up, do you have any book recommendations or TV show recommendations for our listeners?
You mean like just for entertainment or like educational purposes?
More so like something that would inspire people, like something that you've enjoyed consuming recently.
Right now I'm watching Game of Thrones for the 5th time or something like this.
Nice.
But I also watched House of the Dragon, which was pretty nice.
Right.
Well, do you have something in mind?
No, not really.
There are two Asian movies that I would like to recommend, which I saw recently. One is Past Lives. It's a beautiful romantic movie. And one is Perfect Days, which went pretty viral because it's like, it's a beautiful story about a man who cleans toilets and like the way he goes about his life and the way he's like grateful for the small things in life. It's a very beautiful movie. I think everybody should watch it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Past Lives is on Netflix if you have Netflix. Other places, and then Amazon Prime for Perfect Days, just in case you're interested.
Okay, check that out. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Because those are movies I have not seen or heard of. Seen of. Yeah.
Awesome.
Anyway, guys, for those interested in seeing more of your work, where can they go and find you online?
Well, I think probably the best place is Instagram.
We will redo our website again, so that's always a work in progress.
Muse Mirror, I think you will find us probably.
Yeah.
But thanks for the opportunity to talk about all this.
Yeah.
Our pleasure.
It's really fun.
I've been looking forward to this for months, so it's been great. And people can find us at Perspective by Cinemate. We have an Instagram or YouTube at perspectivebycinemate.com. Thank you to With Jack for sponsoring this episode. And get ready for London Thrive, the 2-day all-star photography workshop held at the UK's first art hotel nestled in the heart of the north of London on the 8th and 9th of October. Fucking hell, it's so soon.
Soon, yeah.
God damn. If you have enjoyed this conversation, please do subscribe to our YouTube. If you're a podcast listener, you can get your podcast anywhere you want. But if you can, do subscribe to both. We do appreciate that. Or you can buy some merch. We have merch. At the moment, I'm working. I know it's very sales ed. I don't like this part, but part of the website is that I'm also trying to put together a blog. We already have a blog where we talk about every episode when it releases on the podcast, but now I'm going back to listen to older episodes and giving our past conversations some due thought and attention again. Because we've been doing this for quite some time, 4 years, I believe. Anyway, you can get us wherever you get your podcasts. We hope to see you in the next episode. However,
in the meantime,
enjoy your thrive.